What if the person hired to destroy your life was the only one who could save it? Theodore Ashmont sat in his vault room, counting stock certificates for the 3,247th time. His fingers moved mechanically across the paper, lips moving with silent numbers. The wheelchair creaked beneath him as he shifted to reach the next stack. Outside, rain hammered against the windows of Ashmont Hall, but Theodore didn't notice. He never noticed anymore. The numbers were always the same. They had been the same for 5 years. But still, he counted. A crash echoed from somewhere below, followed by muffled cursing. Theodore's hands stilled. No one came to Ashmont Hall anymore. The few servants he'd retained had left months ago when the paychecks stopped clearing. He was alone in this massive house, exactly as he deserved to be. Footsteps approached, sharp and purposeful. A woman appeared in the doorway, holding an iPad and looking distinctly annoyed. She was younger than he expected, mid-30s perhaps, with dark hair pulled back severely and eyes that assessed him the way one might evaluate furniture. "Mr. Ashmont? I'm Maya Torres, the liquidation specialist. Your creditors sent me." She stepped into the room without waiting for permission, her gaze sweeping across the certificates, the wheelchair, the man who hadn't moved. "I knocked. Several times. The door was locked," Theodore said flatly. "Yes, well," Maya held up a key. "The Hartford family provided access. Legally, as primary creditors, they have the right to secure the property pending auction. You should have received notification last week." Theodore's jaw tightened. The Hartfords, his late wife's family. Catherine had been dead 5 years, and still they couldn't let go. Or rather, they wouldn't let him forget. "How long do I have?" he asked. 6 months. Maybe less if I work efficiently." Maya began photographing the vault's contents with practiced efficiency. "I'll need your cooperation to verify ownership of items, particularly anything that might have belonged to your wife. The Hartfords are contesting several pieces. They can have it all." Maya's camera paused. She looked at him directly for the first time. "That's not how this works, Mr. Ashmont. I'm here to establish fair market value and legal ownership. What you choose to fight for is your business, but I need accurate information." "There's nothing to fight for. The house alone is worth $4 million. Your stock portfolio, even depleted, is substantial. The art collection is worthless to a dead man." The words hung in the air between them. Maya's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. She lowered the iPad. "You're not dead, Mr. Ashmont, though you seem determined to practice for it." Theodore's hands clenched around the certificates. "Get out." "I can't. I have a contract." Maya moved to a filing cabinet, began opening drawers. "I'll be here every day for the next 6 months, cataloging every item in this house. You can cooperate or you can sit in your chair counting papers that won't change. Either way, I'm doing my job." She pulled out a folder, flipped it open, and went very still. Theodore watched her face carefully, and saw the moment she found what she wasn't supposed to see. His medical records from 5 years ago. The ones that showed his legs had healed. The ones that proved he could walk. Maya closed the folder slowly and placed it back in the drawer. When she turned to him, her expression was unreadable. "The wheelchair," she said carefully. "Is that original to the house, or personal property?" Theodore's throat tightened. "Personal. Condition. What?" "For the catalog. I need to assess the condition." She pulled out a measuring tape, approached him with professional detachment. "Is it functional, or merely decorative?" The question landed like a punch. Theodore found himself almost smiling, though it felt like breaking. "Decorative, I suppose." Maya made a note on her iPad. "Damaged beyond resale value, then. I'll remove it from the auction inventory." She met his eyes. "Some things aren't worth selling." That night, Theodore couldn't sleep. He sat in the library, staring at the Steinway piano that hadn't been played since Catherine's death. Maya's words kept circling his mind. Some things aren't worth selling. But what about things that weren't worth keeping? The next morning, Maya arrived precisely at 8. She moved through the house like a ghost, measuring, photographing, documenting Theodore's life piece by piece. He found himself following her at a distance, watching as she transformed his memories into inventory numbers. "Tell me about the piano," she said without looking up from her iPad. Catherine played. "And you?" "Once." Maya ran her fingers across the keys without pressing them. "It's a 1923 Steinway Model B, concert grade, worth approximately $80,000 at auction." She paused. "Why don't you play anymore?" "My hands don't work the same way. Your medical records suggest otherwise." Theodore's blood ran cold. "You had no right." "I have every right. Part of the assessment includes determining if claims of disability are legitimate for insurance purposes." Maya finally looked at him. "But I'm not interested in your legs, Mr. Ashmont. I'm interested in why a man who can walk chooses to sit. Why a man who can play pretends his hands are broken. You don't know anything about me. I know you've been counting the same certificates for 5 years. I know you're choosing this prison." Maya's voice softened almost imperceptibly. "I know because I've made the same choice." Before Theodore could respond, she moved to the next room, leaving him alone with the piano and questions he didn't want to answer. Over the following weeks, something strange began to happen. Maya didn't just catalog items. She challenged him with each one. A painting Catherine had loved prompted Maya to ask why he kept art he never looked at. Her jewelry collection led to questions about whether Theodore had ever actually known his wife's taste, or just assumed he did. "These earrings." Maya held up a pair of diamonds. "Your wife wore them to events?" "Her favorites. They're cubic zirconia. Good quality but fake." Maya set them down carefully. "Did you know?" Theodore felt something crack inside him. "No. She had real diamonds locked in a safety deposit box downtown. I found the records yesterday. She never wore them." Maya's expression was thoughtful. "People keep secrets, Mr. Ashmont. Sometimes from everyone. Sometimes from themselves. If you're enjoying this story, please hit the subscribe button. You won't believe what happens next." The real shift came 3 weeks into the inventory. Maya was measuring a wall in Catherine's old studio when something didn't add up. The dimensions were wrong. She pressed against the paneling, and it gave way slightly. "Mr. Ashmont, can you come here?" Theodore wheeled himself to the studio. Maya had removed a section of false wall, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside were letters, dozens of them, tied with ribbon. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she pulled them out. "These are addressed to your wife. From someone named Marcus." She looked at Theodore, and for the first time, he saw genuine uncertainty in her face. "I should catalog these, but I think you should read them first." Theodore took the letters with hands that felt numb. The dates spanned 6 months before Catherine's death. The words were intimate, passionate planning. Catherine had been leaving him. The accident hadn't stolen her away. She was already gone. He sat in that studio for hours, reading every word, while Maya worked silently in another room. When he finally emerged, it was dark outside. Maya was still there, sitting in the library, drinking tea she must have made herself. "She was leaving me," Theodore said. His voice sounded strange, distant. "The night of the accident, she was going to him. I was driving her to what I thought was her sister's house. She died on the way to another man." Maya set down her cup. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." Theodore laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. "I've spent 5 years punishing myself for killing the woman I loved. But she didn't love me. I was punishing myself for losing something I never had. Love isn't a transaction, Mr. Ashmont. Isn't it? You catalog everything in this house, assign it value, determine what's worth keeping. That's all love is. An inventory of what you're worth to someone else." "No," Maya said firmly. "That's not love. That's accounting. And I should know. I used to be a forensic accountant." She stood, moved closer to him. "I helped send my own husband to prison for fraud. I counted every dollar he stole, documented every lie, testified against him in court. And you want to know the worst part?" Theodore waited. "I was relieved, because as long as I was counting his crimes, I didn't have to count my own." I didn't have to add up all the moments I chose his comfort over my integrity, all the questions I didn't ask because I didn't want answers. Maya's voice cracked. I've been doing inventory on my own life ever since, Mr. Ashmont. Trying to calculate exactly how much I'm worth after everything I've done. And what's the total? Still counting. She smiled sadly. That's why I took this job. Your creditors wanted someone without sympathy. Someone who could be ruthless. They chose perfectly. I'm very good at dismantling lives. I've had practice. Theodore looked at this woman who was cataloging his existence, and for the first time in 5 years, he saw something other than his own pain. The letters, he said slowly. They could contest the Hartford's claim. If Catherine was leaving me, they can't argue moral damages. The debt might be contestable. Yes, you should log them. It's your job. Maya met his eyes. Some things aren't in the catalog, Mr. Ashmont. That night, Theodore stood up from his wheelchair. Just stood, alone in his room, testing legs that worked perfectly and had for years. He took one step, then another, then 3 more before his knees buckled and he collapsed onto the floor. He lay there, breathing hard, and he laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty and strange, but real. The next morning, Maya found him sitting at the kitchen table instead of his vault. He was wearing actual clothes instead of a robe. His hair was combed. Good morning, he said. Maya set down her equipment slowly. Good morning. I want to show you something. Theodore stood up. Maya's eyes widened, but she didn't speak. He walked, slowly and carefully, to the piano in the library. His hands shook as he sat on the bench. He pressed a key. It rang out, clear and bright. He played badly, mistakes in every measure, but he played. And Maya stood in the doorway, watching, her professional mask finally cracking into something that looked like hope. Why now? She asked when he finished. Because I'm tired of counting what I've lost. I want to see what I still have. Maya moved to sit beside him on the bench. Their shoulders almost touched. Mr. Ashmont. Theodore. I need to tell you something. She took a breath. The Hartford family is sending someone to supervise me. They think I'm behind schedule. They're going to accelerate the timeline. How long do we have? 30 days. Maybe less. Theodore's hands curled into fists on the piano keys, creating a discordant sound. Then we'd better make them count. But things spiraled faster than either of them expected. Patricia Hartford, Catherine's sister, arrived within the week. She was sharp-eyed and suspicious, noticing immediately the changes in Theodore. The real clothes, the way he stood to greet her, the life returning to his face. Ms. Torres, Patricia said coldly, might I speak with you privately? In the library, away from Theodore, Patricia laid out her concerns with clinical precision. You're developing sympathy for the defendant. That's a liability. I'm doing my job. Are you? Because from where I stand, you're slowing down the process, taking extra time, having long conversations with a man you're supposed to be inventorying, not befriending. Patricia pulled out a document. Your contract specifically states that any personal involvement with the debtor voids your certification and payment. It also blacklists you from future liquidation work. Maya's face went pale. This job was her first since the scandal with her husband. If she lost it, she'd never work in the field again. I've done nothing inappropriate. Haven't you? The wheelchair isn't listed in the inventory. Several other items have been mysteriously devalued or removed from auction consideration. And according to the household accounts, someone has been making tea in the kitchen. Patricia smiled coldly. That someone isn't Mr. Ashmont. He doesn't even know where the kitchen is. Those are judgment calls within my professional discretion. Your discretion is now supervised. I'll be staying on site until the auction. And Ms. Torres? One more sign of partiality and you're done. Not just here. Everywhere. Theodore had heard everything. He'd been standing in the hallway, and the old house carried sound better than Patricia realized. That evening, he found Maya in the study, staring blankly at her iPad. You need to finish the job and leave, he said without preamble. Maya looked up, startled. Theodore. I heard Patricia. You can't risk your career for this. For me. He moved to the window, his back to her. I'm not worth it. I've been sitting in a wheelchair for 5 years, counting papers, mourning a woman who was already gone. I'm damaged goods, Maya. Catalog me as such and move on. Don't do this. Do what? Tell the truth. He turned to face her. You were right about everything. I chose this prison. But that doesn't mean you have to be locked in here with me. Get your certification. Get paid. Get on with your life. That's what I should have done years ago. Is that what you want? Theodore looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who'd spent weeks cataloging his life, who'd challenged every lie he told himself, who'd somehow seen him when he'd worked so hard to be invisible. No, he admitted. But what I want doesn't matter. You need this job. I needed my last job too. I needed my marriage to work. I needed my husband to be innocent. Maya stood, moved closer to him. I'm tired of needing things that require me to be less than honest. With others. With myself. Maya. The letters, Theodore. The ones from Marcus to Catherine. I never logged them. They're not in the official inventory. But I made copies and sent them to a lawyer friend of mine. Anonymously. They'll contest the Hartford's claim without connecting back to either of us. Theodore's breath caught. You can't. If Patricia finds out. She won't. And even if she does, so what? She fires me? Blacklists me? I've been blacklisted before. I survived it. I'll survive it again. Maya's voice strengthened. But what I won't survive is spending the rest of my life counting my mistakes and calling it penance. That's exactly what you'll have to do if you lose this certification. Maybe. Or maybe I'll finally stop counting altogether. The auction preview was scheduled for the following week. Ashmont Hall was open to wealthy strangers who wandered through Theodore's life with checkbooks and appraising eyes. Maya worked mechanically, answering questions, directing traffic, maintaining her professional mask while Patricia watched her every move. Theodore had returned to his vault, to his wheelchair, to his counting. Maya passed by several times but didn't enter. The separation felt like a physical wound. A potential buyer approached the Steinway piano, running his hands over the keys. Magnificent instrument. I'll start the bidding at 70,000. That item has been withdrawn, Maya said. The buyer frowned. It's in the catalog. Number 47. Steinway Model B, 1923, concert grade. I've reassessed it. There's structural damage to the soundboard that wasn't initially apparent. It's unsellable. Patricia appeared at Maya's elbow. Ms. Torres, might I see the damage assessment report? It's being compiled. There is no damage. Patricia's voice was ice. You're lying. In front of witnesses. That's fraud, Ms. Torres. The room had gone silent. All eyes were on them. Maya felt her career, her reputation, her future crumbling in real time. And she found she didn't care as much as she thought she would. You're right, Maya said clearly. I lied. The piano is in perfect condition. It's also not for sale. Neither is the wheelchair in the vault, or the medical records in the filing cabinet, or the letters hidden in Catherine's studio wall. Patricia's face went white. What letters? The ones proving your sister was leaving Theodore. The ones that show she was having an affair for 6 months before her death. The ones that completely invalidate your family's claim of moral damages. Maya pulled out her phone, showed Patricia the photographs. I have copies. So does a lawyer. The auction is about to be contested. If you want to see how this ends, don't forget to like this video and drop a comment below. Patricia moved fast. Within the hour, Maya was terminated. Her certification was revoked pending investigation. She was told to leave the property immediately and surrender all materials. Maya packed her equipment in the library, moving slowly, methodically, like she was cataloging one last time. She didn't go to the vault. Didn't say goodbye. Some endings didn't need words. She was almost to the door when Theodore appeared. Not in his wheelchair. Walking. His gait was uncertain, his balance shaky, but he was walking. Don't go, he said. I have to. It's over. The house might be over. Patricia will probably succeed in selling it out from under me, letters or no letters. But that's not what I'm talking about. Theodore moved closer, each step deliberate. I spent 5 years in a prison I built myself, counting certificates that didn't change, mourning a love that didn't exist, punishing myself for a crime I didn't commit. And then you walked in here with your iPad and your brutal honesty, and you started uncounting everything. Theodore, you removed the wheelchair from the inventory. You devalued my self-punishment. You proved my wife's betrayal. You dismantled every excuse I had for staying broken. He reached her, standing on legs that trembled but held. You did your job perfectly, Maya. You liquidated my old life. Now I want to know if you'll help me build a new one. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to do that. Build instead of dismantle. I've forgotten how. Then we'll learn together. Badly at first, probably. Like me playing piano after 5 years. But we'll learn. I don't have a job anymore. I don't have a certification. Neither do I. The house is still going to auction. My accounts are still frozen. In 3 months, I'll have nothing. Theodore smiled, and it transformed his face. Accept the choice of what to count as valuable. Maya set down her equipment, closed the distance between them. I'm very good at counting, you know? I know. What if I count wrong? What if I overvalue things? What if? Theodore kissed her. It was gentle and uncertain and perfect. When they pulled apart, he whispered, "Then we'll recount. Together." Patricia Hartford fought the letter revelation for 3 months. In the end, the lawyer Maya had contacted built a strong enough case to contest the moral damages clause. Theodore wouldn't keep all of Ashmont Hall, but he wouldn't lose everything either. The Steinway piano, the medical records, and his late wife's hidden letters, those were removed from auction. Along with the wheelchair, which Theodore donated to a hospital. He didn't need it anymore. 6 months after Maya first walked into Ashmont Hall with her iPad and her sharp eyes, she walked out for the last time. But not alone. Theodore walked beside her, carrying a single box of items he'd chosen to keep. Photographs, a few books, Catherine's wedding ring, which he would sell to pay legal fees, and sheet music for the Steinway, which he'd bought at the auction with the last of his liquid assets. It cost him $72,000. Worth every penny. They moved into a small apartment downtown. 2 bedrooms, enough space for the piano and not much else. Maya found work as a bookkeeper for a nonprofit. Theodore started teaching piano to children, his hands remembering slowly what his heart had forgotten. On quiet evenings, they sat together at the Steinway. Theodore played, still making mistakes, still learning. Maya kept the books for his small teaching practice, still counting, but counting different things now. Students taught, songs mastered, moments of peace. One evening, Maya noticed the wheelchair in the corner. Theodore had kept it, though he never sat in it anymore. "Should we catalog that?" she asked with a slight smile. Theodore looked at it, the symbol of 5 years of chosen imprisonment, of self-punishment disguised as grief, of counting losses instead of possibilities. "Damaged beyond resale value," he said. "Exactly." Maya leaned against him, and they sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights through their small window. The apartment was tiny compared to Ashmont Hall. They had a fraction of the wealth, none of the prestige, and barely enough to cover rent. But they were free. Free from counting what was lost. Free from inventorying pain. Free from the silent contract that said their worth was measured in what they destroyed, not what they could build. Theodore's fingers found the keys, and he began to play. Not perfectly, not even particularly well, but honestly. And Maya listened, no longer cataloging the mistakes, just hearing the music. Some things, they'd learned, weren't meant to be counted. Some things were meant to be lived. Outside, rain began to fall on the city. The same rain that had hammered against Ashmont Hall's windows that first day. But here, in this small space with this quiet music, it sounded different. Not like mourning, like possibility, like starting over, like grace. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to let go of something valuable to find something priceless? We'd love to hear your story. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the most valuable things in life can't be cataloged. They can only be lived.